national leadership of the Duterte administration has the political will and capital to drive tax reforms that the previous leaders failed to accomplish. But while the new government wants personal and corporate income tax reduced, it also needs to generate more revenues to finance socio-economic projects. Join us today as we discuss the various tax reform bills in the Philippine Senate. I am Dr. Victor B. Endriga, and this is TaxTV, a taxpayer's guide to Philippine taxation. In our previous episodes, we presented to you facts that hinder our economic growth, that our country imposes the highest corporate income tax rate in the ASEAN region at its current 30% and the second highest individual or personal income tax rate at 32%. Taxation is not just a way for the government to raise revenue. It is also the means to build a more humane and just society and to ensure upward mobility. Our main objective is to build our middle class and help Filipino families, which is the foundation of our society. With bigger take-home pay, the family can spend more on their basic necessities and save for the future in a highly unequal society like ours. Genuine tax reform that ensure progressive taxation and income redistribution would promote social justice and would lead to greater equity and economic growth. Our outdated, unfair, and oppressive tax system has burdened our taxpayers for so long. This is now the best time to reform our income tax system and to introduce new tax policy that is more dynamic, growth-friendly, and sustainable to make our communities stronger for the future generations. Today, we will present 3 Senate tax bills that Senator Sonny Angara filed to lower both individual and corporate income taxes. This is TaxTV, a taxpayer's guide to Philippine taxation. We'll be right back. Senator Juan Edgardo Sonny Angara, Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, filed Senate Bill 129, Indexation of Personal Income Tax. Senate Bill 129, an act amending Section 24 of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended and for other purposes. In his explanatory note on Senate Bill 129, Senator Angara stated, "The bill which aims to update and amend our tax system is also in line with the Philippine commitment to the ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint that would transform ASEAN into a single market and production line. The tax shall be computed in accordance with and at the rate established in the following schedule. If we leave the brackets without provisions for indexation or automatic adjustment, at some point, even young graduates who just entered the workforce will fall into this highest bracket. If not corrected, the middle class will continue to be pulled down into lower income groups despite an increase in their salaries because they are pushed up into higher tax bracket. For married individuals, the husband and wife, subject to the provisions of Section 51D hereof, shall compute separately their individual income tax based on the respective total taxable income. You filed the Senate Bill 129. This is the proposed indexation. It simply means what?
Well, indexation means simply you must bring the brackets or the tax brackets up to date with present realities. When we rebracket, we mean you cannot tax people making 500,000 at 32% anymore because yung halaga po ng 500,000 was a lot of money in 1997. In 2016, 500,000 is no longer the value.
200,000.
Oo, kasi in 1997, you can probably buy a car for 500,000. Here in 2016, you can no longer buy a car for 500,000. Motorsiklo na lang ang pwede mong bilhin. So that's what I mean, that nakain na ng inflation yung value. And people right now, because of that, because of our failure to update our tax laws, we have ordinary people being taxed very, very high amounts.
Senate Bill 129, specifically Section 1D, states that husband and wife should file separately. Why is it so?
Well, it's there's also that possibility under current law. You can file separately. You can also file jointly. So I don't think it's a major factor naman.
How about, are you in favor of increasing the personal income tax, the personal exemption, and the additional exemptions?
Well, that's one approach, no? Some are in favor of increasing exemptions while keeping the percentages. So it's one or the other. If you're going to lower income tax rates, you can leave the exemptions alone.
Exemptions at 50,000 each and 25,000 for each dependent.
In fact, I think the DOF is thinking of removing the exemptions. So it's a simpler.
Simpler.
System. Yes.
So it's very easy.
So no more calculation. It's just what is your income. You get a fixed percentage, which is lower. So ease of doing business.
So consumer index is your basis for inflation. In the absence of this information, what information could you use in order to tax them?
Well, inflation is that's for indexation. When we'll have fixed rates in the law, and we'll put a provision so there will be no repeat of what's happening now. For 20 years, there will be no changes. Every few years, there must be a rebracketing or adjustment based on inflation. But adjustment upwards, meaning not downwards, meaning you cannot charge more taxes because people will be making the same salary but paying less. Paying more rather. So we have to be conscious that kailangan kaya ng tao na bayaran yung kanyang buwis.
This bill seeks to amend Section 24 of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended by adjusting the individual income tax brackets and reducing the rates of individual income tax beginning January 1st of 2017. This bill aims to lower income tax rate across the board from 32% to 25% by the year 2019 and to compress the tax bracket from 7 to 5. This also aims to make the tax table consistent with Republic Act 9504, which exempts minimum wage earners from paying income taxes. This bill sets the lowest tax bracket at 70,000. The income also spreads the reduction over a period of 3 years. It further provides for indexation or automatic adjustment of the tax schedule every 3 years, using the Consumer Price Index so that inflation will not result in tax increases. The rate of tax on taxable income of individuals shall be computed in accordance and at the rate established on the following brackets. According to Senator Sonny Angara, the bill seeks to correct the phenomenon of bracket creep by adjusting the individual income tax brackets to account for inflation. This bill also reinstates the original and novel intention of the 1997 National Internal Revenue Code to provide an equitable and progressive system of taxation. Our personal income tax rate of 32% is the highest in the ASEAN region. President Duterte has promised to lower it and bring it down to 25%. Now, would this Senate bill of yours answer the question?
Well, meron ho tayong bill dyan, Mr. Enriga. Matagal na nating pinupush for 3 years because isa tayo sa pinakamataas na rate sa region, whether sa personal na binabayad or even with the corporate. Income tax, we're also one of the highest. So, I think lumilit ang mundo, so there's an increasing integration among ASEAN economies. We really need to be a little more competitive. Of course, yung danger doon is we go to a race to the bottom, masyado tayo nagbaba, we don't earn enough to fund all our infrastructure requirements. But definitely, I think since our tax system has not, our tax laws, our income tax brackets have not changed since 1997. So I think it's really the time is ripe to really revisit this and ensure that working people who are in their first jobs and are not making a lot of money, they shouldn't be taxed at too big a percentage, which is what is happening now. They're taxed at 20%. You're talking about public school teachers. You're talking about policemen, about soldiers. These people need to save up to provide a decent living for their families, to save up to buy a home, a car, and other needs of their families.
So this is the main feature of this bill, Senate Bill 130, is all about this lowering of the income tax bracket?
Yes, we have rebracketing, meaning dahil natali na dun sa 1997 figures and inflation has risen many times over. So the value of 1 peso in 1997 is very much different from the values now. So we need to adjust the brackets upwards. When I tell that to our neighbors or friends from Thailand or Malaysia or Indonesia, nagugulat sila. They're really surprised. Why are we taxing such a small amount, $10,000 a year, at the highest tax rate? They said in their country, that amount is taxed maybe 10%, 12%.
So are you in favor, Senator, of lowering it to 25%? Because that is, I think, the suggestion of the Department of Finance.
Yes, but the Department of Finance is actually proposing a higher bracket for...
higher bracket.
If you make higher than 5 million a year, you will be charged 35%. They are proposing that.
Wow.
But for those in the middle, maybe you call them middle class or middle income earners, they are proposing a lowering of brackets and rates.
Yeah, I saw in your bill, especially the second level, it's, I think, from 70 to more or less 250,000. The bracket is, and it's really low. Because right now, we already had the minimum wage law, which exempts those earning minimum wage. And right now, the minimum wage is 491. Multiply that by 24 days times 12, you will get already around 141,000. So the first brackets, really, right now, the 4 brackets are useless. The remaining 3 brackets are the one that's only being taxed right now. That's why even you are a minimum wage earner, you are already falling within the 25% bracket. It's
That's
very,
precisely
very high.
what we said earlier, sir. People making not a lot of money, maliit na nga ang sweldo mo, malaki pa ang tax mo. Those are not the features of a just or a progressive tax system. So we want to correct that. We want to make sure new entrants to the workforce are taxed at more progressive and just rates. Yung makatarungan naman na kayang, because a feature of a good tax system is the ability of the taxpayer to bear the burden of taxation.
Yeah. 150
That's why they are proposing additional taxes on
cover.
certain products, on excise taxes mostly.
Especially on maybe we could get it from oil.
Well, oil is one of the products they're proposing to increase the excise tax because the argument of the Department of Finance is that these excise taxes have also not moved since 1997, and since oil prices are now low, maybe it's a good time to increase the tax. So the consumer does not feel overburdened because he was paying a high tax already before when the prices were high. Now that the prices are low, a higher tax will be the same. So they're proposing from 4 pesos excise tax on oil to 10 pesos. So it's quite a dramatic increase that they're proposing. We'll have to study it. We'll have to subject it to public hearings to hear what the public and what the affected sectors and stakeholders will have to say about it.
This bill seeks to amend Section 27 and 28 of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended by gradually reducing the rate of corporate income tax over a 3-year period beginning January 1st of 2017. Section 27 in general, except as otherwise provided in this code, an income tax of 29% beginning January 1st of 2017, 27% beginning January 1st of 2018, and 25% beginning January 1st of 2019 is hereby imposed upon the taxable income derived during its taxable year from all sources within and without the Philippines by corporations as defined in Section 22B of this code. The studies show that a percentage point reduction in tax rates will lead to 30.6 billion increase in investments. This is a means to attract foreign direct investments and boost job generation in the country. How about Senate Bill 317, corporate income tax from 30% to be lowered to 25% on a staggered basis? Would it still be, I think we would still be the highest, one of the highest in the ASEAN region, because right now the average is around 22 or 23% on the average of the ASEAN region.
It plays around the 22, 23, 24, 25%. So I think 25% is a good number. Again, we don't want to go too low because it's what economists call a race to the bottom. Meaning you keep trying to lower, but at the end of the day, you're not able to raise enough to fund your requirements. We're not in the same position as Hong Kong or Singapore, which has good infrastructure and has a lot of income from other sources, like Singapore has income from Temasek, GIC, and its other government corporations. So tax revenue is only one source of financing of government infrastructure. Sa Pilipinas, wala tayong masyadong kinikita sa ibang source. Hong Kong, kumikita yan sa gambling revenue. So the Philippines, we're very reliant on tax collection. So we must also balance the needs of the government.
Would this not affect our foreign direct investments if you will lower it?
Definitely. That's one of the reasons why we must lower it, because 30%, when investors see that, when companies see that, makisabi nila, I don't want to invest in the Philippines, it's too high.
It's too high.
They will cross us off their list. So even if we have tax incentives, etc., they look at the top line, which is 30%. And they will cross out the Philippines, which explains why we're still one of the lowest earners of foreign direct investment in the region.
How about in lieu of the losses, what would be the replacement in terms of income to be generated?
Well, there are a lot of proposed taxes. There are proposed taxes on oil, on diesel, on bunker fuel, kerosene. There's also a proposed increase of excise tax on sugared beverages, soft drinks,
junk foods.
Junk food. Among others, there's also talk about another round of increases on sin products. As we see now, the sin tax was very successful in raising revenue, and I think the number of citizens or Filipinos na are enrolled in PhilHealth is being funded by the money from the sin tax law.
Are you in favor of increasing the VAT from 12 to 15% as proposed, I think, by the Department of Finance?
Well, they've not proposed that actually. I think that budget was made initially by another secretary, but the Department of Finance has not included it in their list of 5 packages for tax reform. I think they scratched off the proposal to increase, and I support that we shouldn't increase the VAT, the VAT, because the average VAT for Southeast Asia is around 8%. So 12% is already high. If we go to 14 or 15%, it really hits us. It makes us uncompetitive. And maybe the viewers should understand it's important to be competitive, because if you attract businesses, you attract investment, you can create jobs. And as you know, in the Philippines, one of the biggest problems is providing jobs for our citizens. We have an unemployment rate of 7%, which is very high for the region.
How about the proposal of removal of the VAT from senior citizens and PWDs?
Well, that's a little controversial because that's social legislation. And when we say social legislation, you're not just looking at the numbers and the centavos. You're looking at the good, the social good that you're trying to do. And society is willing to provide for our senior citizens because these are marginalized sectors. So until the day siguro na the government can say that we're giving a subsidy to the seniors as provided in the law, and giving a subsidy to the PWDs or persons with disabilities who really have a hard time fending for themselves in society. They have to buy medicines. A lot of their income goes towards healthcare. Until that day that we can really fund their requirements and subsidize them, I think it might be premature to remove these subsidies.
How about the other proposals also to reduce the capital gains and the doc stamp from 6 and 1.5%?
I'm not sure if that's what the DOF, we haven't discussed that yet. The doc stamp, it's there as a requirement of doing business. The capital gains, I think the aim of the DOF is really to make uniform all of the transaction
like the estate tax,
taxes.
I think estate tax.
Yeah, they're looking at making the estate tax, which currently stands at
20%.
a high of 20%. They're looking to ipapantay nila dun sa capital gains, which is 6%. Kasi ang nangyayari, para to avoid the estate tax, people are increasing their disposals or donations inter vivos while living, so as to avoid that tax. So now, if you have an equal playing field for all types of dispositions of property, then it doesn't matter when it happens. And the collections of the Department of Finance and the Bureau of Customs from estate or inheritance tax are quite low, around 1 billion pesos or so. And out of around 300,000 estates, people who die every year, only a few are settled and pay the taxes. So, kumbaga, hirap na hirap ng tao, namatayan na sila, nagkasakit, nahirapan sila, they're forced to sell their property. Why don't we come up with a more just system that will is more pro-people, pro-family, at makakatulong pa sa kanila at makakatulong pa sa gobyerno?
I think that's the main problem, because if you try to look over the titles, maybe 5 or 3 generations backward, still the title is in the name of the...
I'm sure, sir, you know about this in Quezon City with your experience. A lot of titles were not transferred because they didn't want to pay the taxes.
Because of the huge estate tax that they have to pay, the 20%.
So it happens to many families that they inherit land, but they don't inherit the money. So they're not able to pay the estate tax, which is due a few months after the death. So I think it's really time to review also the estate tax regime to make it easier for not so wealthy families to comply.
The new administration, fully armed with political will and capital, together with the Philippine Senate and the House of Representatives, will pursue tax reforms towards a simpler, more equitable, and more efficient tax system that can foster higher investment and job creations. Join us again next week as we discuss the private organization support in the tax reform of the Duterte administration. Let us help build our nation. Give your share by paying your taxes correctly and promptly for a better tomorrow. Once again, I am Dr. Victor B. Endriga, and this is TaxTV, a taxpayer's guide to Philippine taxation. Thank you for watching.
For comments, questions, and suggestions on our topic today, you may email us at taxtvph@gmail.com, and Dr. Victor Endriga will gladly answer your queries.